This is going to be a quick example of how to use event handlers, how to use object sender and cast object sender into the control that you need so that you can use it. It's meant to help you understand the functioning of the code a little better before the bigger assignment that's coming. So it's not much to it other than we are actually grabbing information and displaying it, and what we're working with is the code behind to make this happen. So we're going to start by making a file, our new project. So file, new project, web application. Make sure you're in C#. I'm going to call this Assign03 EX for example, and I'm going to put it on my desktop. I'll hit create, uncheck the HTTPS configuration. I'm just going to do an empty one this time and hit create. So now we've got this loaded. I'm going to right click on my solution name, add new item, C# web forms, just a plain web form. Again, I'm going to call it Assign03 EX for our lead-in example. We'll see it added over here. So I've got my ASPX open, and then I've got my .cs there with it. And on my ASPX, I'm going to go to a split view so I can see the split view there. And on my, on my div, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger so that I can see it. I'm going to do a style, set background color to whatever, anything that's not white really. Change the width of it. Let's do 500 pixels and the height also to 500 pixels. And then we'll leave some space in there. So that just gives us a working space in here. We're going to put 3 buttons in place there. So over here in my toolbox, I've got a button. You can drag and drop it here, or you can drop it here, either way. So there's my button. Click on that bar, my button appears there. I'm going to want 3 of those. That'll give us enough to run an example. You can leave the IDs as button 1, button 2, button 3. That's fine. We'll leave that as it is. We are going to change the text. We're going to make the text of the first button say left, the second one say middle, and the third one say right. So we'll just put them in a line there. Next, we're going to make it so that we can drag and drop these buttons. So up here, we've got to do our styles. So style type equals text CSS, and then we need those 3 IDs, button 1, position absolute, button 2, position absolute, and button 3. Position absolute. Line that up. So now we can select them one by one. Make sure you get that crosshairs. Oops. Hopefully, if we can grab it just right. There's one of them. There's the middle one. And there's the left one, which, yeah. Okay, And you can resize them if you want. There we go. So now we've got our 3 buttons there. You can see that our top, left, width, and right were all added up there for us. We are going to add a label as well. We're going to add a big rectangular label down here so that we can write stuff to the screen. I'm just going to drop it right here on the screen. We can leave it named label 1, and I'm so you can see where it is. So we've got the label right there. Again, we come up into our CSS and we'll do a pound label 1. Set it so that we can move that. Click that yellow bar. Make it so that we can move this label down here to where we can use it. And I'm just going to make it nice and big. Kind of like that. So now we know the label's there. I'm going to delete the text out of it. It's still there. It still leaves that there so that you know it's there and you can select it. So with these, again, this is our just quick and dirty example to help understand how the code's going to work and the code behind. So on any one of these from this design view, if you just double click on one of them, it will automatically create the event handler back here in the .cs. And if I come back here and I double click on the next one, now I've got button 1 click, button 2 click, and button 3 clicks. So I've got 3 functions there, 3 event handlers that I'm going to use. And I'm just going to start with something simple. So if button 1 is clicked, I'm going to add to label 1 some text. I'm going to do a plus equals so that it's just going to add on to itself. And I'm going to put button 1 underscore click event handler called. End it with a semicolon, and I'm just going to copy that line and paste it in these other 2. But of course, I'm going to change this to 3 and this one to 2. All right, so they're almost the same, right? They're almost the same, except I've changed the text. I've changed a number in the text. They're all adding to label 1. I'm going to do a Control-Shift-B. See it build down here at the bottom, build succeeded. And now we're going to right-click on the ASPX, view in the browser. So we've got our screen that loads. We've got left, middle, and right. If I click on left, you'll see my text there. Middle, my text is there. Right, my text is there. And I can just click around, but you can see that when I click in each one, a different event handler is getting called. So what we want to do is add to this a little bit and make it so that we get the type of button, which button. We want it to actually come from the button itself. So for that to happen, we need to use object sender. So I don't want to manually write the word left and middle and right. I want to actually get that text from the button itself. So what we're going to do is, in each one of these, we're going to declare another variable, system.web.ui.webcontrols.button. And I'll just call it btn equals, and we're going to do a cast. So sender right here comes from right here. So sender is passed into this function, and we are going to use it here. and we are going to cast it. And C# casting is done by putting the type in parentheses in front of the object. So this is going to be system.web.ui.webcontrols.button again. And so we are casting the sender here into an object of type button, and it will become this object right here, btn. So now what I can do is label1.text, continue to add to it, and I can do btn dot. So I created this btn here out of this sender that was passed in, and I can say btn.text, which is what's written on it, and I'll do toString, and I will add to it some text and say clicked, along with a line break. So now what we should have happen is label 1, when I click button 1, the left button, it will print out this, it will cast the sender from here, it will cast it into a button named btn. I will use btn.text to get the value that is written on the button itself, and I will write that out, followed by the word clicked and a line break. So let's do a Control-Shift-B to build. Build succeeded. Right click over here, view in browser. Left. Button 1 click event handler called, left clicked. This word left came from what is written on this button. We have not done these two yet, so let's go ahead and do those. And it is the same code. I'm just going to copy those two lines, paste it, do a Control-Shift-B to build. Build succeeded, right click, view in browser. Left, middle, right, right, middle, left, right. Doesn't matter what order they go in. You can see that a different event handler is being called for each one, and every time the value on the button is actually being pulled from the button itself and written out for us. And that is how we use the object that is passed in to the event handler so that we can actually manipulate things. Now the thing is, these three functions here, I think you can agree, are nearly identical. In fact, if I change this to a 1 and this to a 1, they would be identical, right? So we should not need three functions. We only need one function. And if we come back here, when we double clicked on left, it added onClick equals. Same for middle, same for right. And all I'm going to do is, instead of them going to three different functions, I'm just going to change this to button 1 click and this one to button 1 click. And now all three buttons go to the same function. I'll do Control-Shift-B to build. Come over here, view in browser. And now I see button 1 click event, left is clicked. Still button 1 click event, but middle was clicked. Still button 1 click event, and right was clicked. We only need the one function for three buttons because they're doing the same thing. So now what I could do is actually get rid of these two event handlers because they're no longer necessary. To prove that, I'll do a build, right click, view in browser, loads again, and you can see it will call the one function, but it will pull from the button that is chosen. Now I'm going to go a step further and show something a little bit different. We're going to use a drop-down list. This is not part of the bigger upcoming exercise, but it is a handy thing to understand, and it's doing essentially the same thing as what we are doing right now. So what I want to do is come back to here, and in between my buttons in my label, I want a drop-down list. So I've got ASP drop-down list. Drop-down list 1 is fine. Run equals server is fine. But then what I'm going to do is in between the opening and closing drop-down list tags, I'm going to do an ASP:list item with a value equals, and I'm going to do a value, and then we've got text equals a value. Actually, a text, so that they're different. And so when you do a drop-down list in HTML, you remember it's select, and then inside of select is option tags, and the option has a value, and then you can also put text in between the open and close option tags. So in HTML, this is your select, this is your option, this value equals would be inside of the option value equals, and this right here would be in between the open and close option tags. So I'm just going to make a few so that it'll drop down. And I'm just going to do A, B, C, and D. And I'll change it on both the value and the text. So now it'll show up as different. And what I'm going to do is use the C#. I'm going to cast this item into an object so that I can grab the actual value and the actual text. And so what I've got right now is it's just on the screen. So likewise, we want to be able to move this. So we're going to come up here and pound drop down list 1. We'll make that so that we can position it on the screen somewhere else. And I'm just going to put it kind of in the middle here and then make it a little bit bigger like that. So we come up here, we've got our values that were added for us. We've got our drop-down list. What we do not have yet is an event handler for it. The only event handler we have is button 1 click. So let's go ahead and do a Control-Shift-B, make sure everything's working right. Right click, view in browser. And so these 3 are still working, and we haven't done anything with that one yet. So we want an event handler for this. I double click on it, it's automatically put back here, but notice it is not _click, it is _selected index changed, which is what we want. So when that index is changed, as I select something new each time, it will write it out, we'll make it write it out to that label once again. So now we are, once again, we're going to cast sender, which is passed into this event handler. We're going to cast it into an object. So we're going to use system.web.ui.webcontrols. And this time we're using drop-down list, and I'll just do DDL is equal to, and again we're going to cast sender. So again, we take sender, which is passed in right here, and it's important to realize that even though these are named the same, notice this sender is not highlighted. This sender comes from here, not up here. These are different event handlers. Inside of here, it's going to be this same object over here. So system.web.ui.webcontrols.dropdownList, and that will cast sender into a drop-down list named DDL that we can then use. Then we can do label1.text. We'll do a plus equals again, and we'll start with just some text, and we'll do drop down list value, the colon space, and now let's write out the value. Remember I said we're gonna grab the value equals and the text equals out of that. And we use DDL dot, and we are looking for selected value. And we'll do a toString on that, and we'll concatenate that with a break tag. We're going to do that one more time, but this next time, instead of selected value, we're going to do the text. So it's going to be label one.text plus equals it's the drop-down list text. Remember, from text equals, and then label one.text plus equals. It's similar to above, selected item is what you want. Selected item dot toString, concatenate that with a BR tag so that it moves it down the line. Control-Shift-B to build that. Come over here, right-click, View in Browser, and what you're going to notice is there's an issue that we have, and so we're going to have to make a change. When I click that and then click left, it comes out, and I see I forgot my my colon space there. But you see we've got B value and B text, and so just to drive that home, let me come back here and add that in. Let me come back here. We have ASP list item value equals a value and text equals a text. So let's build that again. And that's what's being grabbed because we cast the sender into an object. Notice it doesn't come up. We're going to fix that. I click the button and then it does fire. It grabbed B value and B text. So it used sender so that it could go to that specific object and get the value and text out of it. So now let's fix this problem of it not automatically appearing. And that's going to be in our .aspx. In the drop-down list, you need to add AutoPostBack equals true. So you'll add that right there. Inside of it, I put it in front of the onSelected index changed, but AutoPostBack equals true. Build that. Right-click, View in the browser. Now these are still working, calling the one function, grabbing left off of each individual button, and now when I make a change, it automatically posts back so that it grabbed D value and D text from this object. B, A, C, middle, right, B, left, D, and so on. So now that wraps up our coding. But the important things that you should take away from this exercise is that we can create these event handler functions. So we've got onClick equals here, and we've got onSelected index change here, and those point to back here in the C#. We've got button one click and selected index changed that we've added. In each one, we've taken the sender that's passed in, and we have cast it into an object. So we declared an object of type system.web.ui.webcontrols.button, and we named it btn. We use that same type to cast sender into btn, and once we have done that, then we can use btn to access the text off of it. That's off the buttons. Exact same thing here, except it's a drop-down list. We named it DDL. And once we have done that, we have an actual drop-down list that we can get the selected value and the selected item from. And that is a quick and dirty intro to the larger exercise. But this one hopefully focusing a little bit more on that coding that's a little bit more complex. I hope you find it useful.